Dr. Tatkin, welcome to Free Your Voice.
Hi, Dustin. Thank you for having me.
I told you in the pre show, you are one of the unique individuals that I've met that I've become starstruck. I've watched your videos, I've heard your lessons. Um, what's it like to be Dr. Stan?
Very, very odd. I'm not. I am. I am blissfully, mostly unaware of any of that. My life is the same as it's been for years, years and years. I feel grateful, uh, right? I feel blessed, um, and that's really about it.
But it wasn't luck. I mean, I have to imagine you were helping people long before the cameras were on, before New York Times or before any major publication was talking about you.
Oh yeah.
That you were all in making impact.
I'm a true believer. I mean, I've been passionate about what I teach, what I write about, and that started late in life. Actually, I've been a clinician for a long time. The inspiration that I felt started when I was about 50. Uh,
50.
yeah,
So you were an overnight success is what you're saying. 50 years old. Was it an aha moment or what happened?
it was an aha moment. I'd gone through a divorce, and I was already studying neuroscience, infant brain development, and the autonomic nervous system. And I'd already had quite a career doing a lot of different things in the mental health field. I think that the catalyst for me was both my divorce and my remarriage to my junior high and high school crush, Tracy, who is my current wife. And that I think led to uh, just a period that felt a little stroke like, to be honest. I just had these ideas that kept popping from all of my experience, including born out of my depression from the divorce, but also uh, born out of the secure relationship that was forged between my wife and I, current wife Tracy. That freed up a lot of resources, which leads me to why I developed or thought about secure functioning as a goal in couple therapy, because it frees up resources, reducing threat or taking threat off the table, reducing interpersonal stress, and being able to feel absolutely safe and secure in my relationship. And that's when things took off for me.
But how different are you, would you say, from your first marriage to your second marriage? Personality wise. I mean, have you changed or you what do you talk about that?
I was young. I was ill prepared. I didn't understand what it was like to be a stepfather. I went right away into marriage at 40 or thereabouts. Um, and I, I was very much an island. If people have been reading my stuff, an avoidant. Uh, but I loved my wife and she loved me. And I was, it was a very sharp learning curve for me. But the main problem actually led me to focus a lot on the autonomic nervous system. We had a very, very hard time co regulating distress states. And that seemed to be the head scratcher for me after the marriage failed. So I learned a lot by regretting a lot, uh, and and so it was an important, albeit miserable time for me.
You're very authentic because it takes a lot of courage to admit that one is going through a period of depression or one is not at their best. I've done this program recently, the self care plan, where it was a course to become a certified in mental health first aid. And I didn't realize that even as I was going through this course, I go, oh my God, I've been there. I felt that. I've seen that. Is that this happens to us? I read something recently. I want to ask your take on it. Memories are lessons. What do you think, Dr. Tatkin?
Well, memories are lessons, yes, if we pay attention to them and learn from them. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't experience regret. Regret turns out to be a very important component in learning and not doing the same things that one does to cause regret, right? Going forward. And that takes a certain amount, I think, a certain amount of suffering and the realization that what is lost and can never be brought back. So that to me is regret. And so memories, yes, remembering what doesn't work, hopefully leads us to be smarter, wiser, more compassionate, and better people.
I like that word compassion because I think that's one of the areas that, especially if you're in a long term relationship, you need to be compassionate. You need to give grace
Yes.
because we're always so quick to judge the other person. But what happens when you're in a relationship where you're stuck?
Well, I mean, people are stuck by many times um, by the circumstances, right? Having to do with children, having to do with money, having to do with a place to live, if they're dependent. There are a lot of things that make people feel stuck. The main thing that makes people feel stuck is a biology. Uh, called attachment. Attachment is nature's glue that holds us together as a species and keeps us pair bonded so we can take care of our children. But we confuse it for love, and it actually isn't. It's the I can't quit you biology. And so, yeah, we have a lot of reasons why we feel stuck. I would say one of the main motivators is the attachment system, which feels like a primal, primitive existential threat. And that feels like death, right? Losing our primary attachment figure or losing people dear to us feels a little bit like death, especially through divorce, because that person still exists on the planet. And that's a hard thing for that infant inside of us to grok, to really understand. And many times impossible to understand, which is why we go, why? And then we figure it out. And then 10 minutes later, why? Because there's a part of us that really can never understand why the person we depend on and love and loves us doesn't love us anymore. And we can't depend on them anymore. And they disappear. That's a bit like babies being abandoned by mothers. So it is a heavy deal. And people don't realize that in many people, maybe most people, that system is extremely powerful and will keep us in relationships even though we're in a bad deal, right?
How do you define it at this stage in your life, Dr. Tatkin? Love.
Love, I can't define. I think I probably go with the definitions, the Greek definitions of love. There is romantic love, there is exciting love, there is uh, the kind of love that happens when we meet somebody. We're on nature's love potion. We're infatuated kind of love that says go procreate. Uh, there's friend love, there's agape love, right? There's the kind of love that I'm interested in, and that is earned love, earned respect, earned admiration, which is done, achieved through a purpose centered relationship that is built on a set of values and purpose between two or more people based on fairness, justice, and mutual sensitivity. And those are values, those are principles that are met when it's the hardest thing to do, right? These are purpose centered values, not feeling centered. We do them because we must. We do them because we decide they're best, they're right, they're good. And we do them whether we feel like it or not. And so these are character driven behaviors that earn us love. It's not the kind of love that happens to pass through every now and then based on who knows what.
I'm curious about your childhood. What were you like as a child, as a kid? Did you have a lot of friends? Were you an introvert? Were you an extrovert?
I was mostly an introvert. I am mostly an introvert that can play an extrovert, right? My wife is much more of an extrovert that can be introverted at times. But I was a shy kid and a dreamer, a kid that was overshadowed basically by a brilliant, the genius in the family, my older brother, and the youngest of three. And so I spent a lot of time in imagination, uh, daydreaming and kind of spacey, not a great student in my own world, so to speak, and a very fear based kid. Um, sweet kid, the good boy, the easy child, the easy baby, which usually means that, my parents were a little distancing on that end, and raised by a housekeeper. Because at that time, when I was a child, my mother was very involved in social programs, and my father was very busy at work. And so I was raised by this woman who was completely different than my family. She was very strict and orderly, and she exposed me to sort of another way of being that was different from my family. And it actually, I think, worked out pretty well that happened. I was influenced by more than just my family of origin.
And what'd your dad do? What was his occupation?
He was a builder, contractor. He built hospitals that
Hmm.
he then turned around and bought. And so he was a different kind of builder. He created these projects and hired the architects, hired the people to build the hospitals, and then owned the property and leased it back. And that was his work. That was what he did. My mother was in show business, and that's where I came from.
She was in show business. Now, were you a sensitive kid or did most things go over you?
No, I was a very sensitive kid.
You felt a lot.
Yeah, 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 very much, very much. I was a kind of a lonely kid, even though there were a lot of people around me, but I didn't feel like other kids, and that's not a good thing, right? I just didn't. I didn't feel like the others, and I felt like an outsider looking in. And like I said, very fear based, very fearful.
But what were you afraid of?
Death, dying,
You were
everything.
afraid of
The
dying.
Cuban Missile Crisis freaked my parents out, and via them, me. And so I was afraid of dying in a nuclear war. I was afraid of California falling into the ocean. That was a thing at that time. I was afraid of earthquakes, which we had here in California. I was afraid of tsunamis. I was afraid of a lot of
How
things.
bad were your nightmares? And do you still have them?
They weren't nightmares, they were more like daymares. They were, feeling vulnerable, just feeling vulnerable in the world, and not really having a good grounded sense of myself, not for a long time, actually. And being in show business, being in the music industry didn't really contribute a whole lot to my sense of reality. And But it sure did to my sense of feeling like I had value. And the good of that was I had a lot of great experiences in the music business, recording with Birdland musicians. I had no idea I was recording with them. The Wrecking Crew, a now famous for hire band that was on most of the recordings of the 70s and 80s. And so I did all these things, um, leading at quite a privileged life, very privileged life. I always think of my life as in reverse. I live my life in luxury as a kid, and now I'm working. That was my retirement, right? My retirement was the beginning, and now I work, and I'll probably work until I'm dead.
So, what's your favorite genre? Sci-fi, drama? Like what is it?
In movies,
Yeah.
my brother and I spent a lot of time in movie theaters, and it was our comfort food. We really loved it, and to this day, when either of us are, feel shook up by something, we'll go into a movie theater. I'll even work in a movie theater sometimes in the back of the room because it feels like a blankie. So I love movies. I love really well written, long form series, and anything that's deep, that's engaging, that's complex, that's smart, that is done very very well. I adore. I love so science fiction to mysteries to rom-coms to historical dramas to you name it, thrillers. I love them
Now, have you met your goals yet? Have you done everything you set out for?
in many ways. Yeah, in many ways I feel that I've done beyond what I ever expected. I never expected this ever, 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 ever. This is a surprise to me. Um, it it evolved, and there were many, many, many people responsible for me being here today, and my thinking as well. A lot of mentors, a lot of people whose shoulders I stand on. So I got here by, I think, by way of my own need to know things, my own fears, my own
You were a
questions.
learner.
Definitely a seeker and with OCD. Once I get onto something, I don't let go until I get bored, and then I move on to something else and do the same.
What are you learning today?
Learning to recover from from whatever I got. My wife and I were just in Portugal, Porto, doing a an 8-day couple retreat, which was lovely. We just got back, and so I'm still jet lagged. And we got this virus that was going around in the retreat. So right now I'm learning to cope with getting older and being slower and trying to get back into the groove of things.
But you didn't have to show up. I mean, over the years, I've done 400 plus interviews. From time to time, someone calls out sick. You're someone that believes in commitment, that when you give your word, you keep it.
Well, I'm also married to somebody, a German woman she's not really German. She just likes to think she is. Who is a get it done gal. If not for her, I probably also wouldn't be here. So she's the one that really burns that into me. Make a commitment, you do it. But also, this is my passion. This is my purpose. This is my mission. This is what keeps me happy. Is what I teach and what I'm continuing to learn, and that's why, not just because of the commitment, but because this is all I love talking about is relationships.
And I wrote this down because I was curious. Is modern technology, is it hurting relationships?
We don't know. Modern technology is definitely creating a stress on the human brain, on the human brain and body. We're under more stress today than ever. Hunters and gatherers didn't really do all that much. To them, it was a lot, but compared to now, the kinds of things we manage, the data streams, the pace of knowledge and information, the existential fears that we're exposed to constantly through the news and through social media itself, I think has scrambled the field so much that we're seeing an evolution here. Brains perhaps getting larger. There was something in the news recently about a study. Possibly brains are getting larger. Doesn't mean we're getting smarter. Um, Einstein actually had a small brain. Uh,
Interesting.
Interestingly enough, yeah. So bigger doesn't mean better, but things are changing. Marriage, the way younger generations see relationships, the way they see life, and how they feel about the older generation leaving this legacy of a mess. Uh, and that there's so much going on so rapidly, almost exponentially, with AI and all the things that we are discovering. It's exciting and scary and a little fast, isn't it? And so we don't know. We don't know what the effects are going to be. We start to see now adaptations. People are adapting to the modern technology in ways that we don't know how it will play out completely. But I am now one of the dinosaurs. Now I understand how my parents felt. My wife and I definitely have had the experience that we're not inheriting this earth. We're done with it. This is now being inherited by a whole other culture.
She makes you happy. Every time you talk about your wife, you smile.
Ah, I
She
love
makes you happy.
my wife is my life. Tracy, I had a crush on her in junior high and high school. We weren't a thing at all until later in life, after my divorce. Actually, I looked her up in our high school alumni website, and we had an email relationship for a while, but we were never a thing.
How did it start? Did you just send her a note or how did it begin?
We had an um, email back and forth. In fact, I hope I've saved the stream somewhere, the threads, and it was quite something. And was different than anybody else I'd ever dated. Um, Opposite, basically, very, very different from my family, very different from me, and so I didn't know what to make of her actually. Uh, she wasn't the usual, which actually turned out to be a very good thing because we happen to be this perfect yin yang, um, left right brain thing that makes us this super couple that is able to not only make each other feel absolutely safe and secure at all times, and I mean that absolutely, absolutely, continuously safe and secure at all times, and also free to create and to dream and to explore and to do all the things that I always wanted to do. And she's a remarkable woman. She's my idol. Uh, I aspire to be a Tracy.
You aspired to be here. It sounds you found that unicorn. I find that people through their lives, they think unicorns don't exist. And then you hear a story like a Dr. Tatkin and say, I found a unicorn. It took me a couple years. It took you a relationship, lessons being learned along the way.
Well, I had to grow up. I mean, she was not the person that I had a crush on. That was a fantasy that was in my head. I had to learn this person, and because she wasn't like the others, like I said, I didn't fall head over heels with Tracy. I was still mourning my divorce, and so I was not fun to be with, actually. But um, but I learned a lot about myself and about our differences and why we were a good match. Uh, Lucky, I don't think she's a unicorn. We're perfectly imperfect. We're not, you know, uh, we're still annoying people, bothersome people. We still disappoint each other. We still get angry with each other. We don't fight anymore.
Don't fight anymore.
Not anymore, no. Not fight, fight, no, because we've systematically, worked out, anything that we would fight about, ahead of time. Now we just can get on each other's nerves at times, but that's about it.
What's it like to be married to you? Because you're a super brain. You already know that.
Um, in one area, in other areas, I'm quite stupid, and I mean that. Um, I don't know. I don't see myself as a particularly easy person, um, and I don't see myself as a very hard person either. I think that I'm still a fearful person, complainer. I worry, worry, worry. I'm an avoider. I'm a procrastinator. I'm lazy as all get out. Um, and I've managed to exceed my breeding. My I'm beyond what I was bred for, and a lot of that I think is due to Tracy, and a lot of that is due to my passion. And there has been a fair amount of luck in my life. I've been blessed with great mentors, people who have opened doors for me, people who helped me think, people who challenged me, people who allowed me in to their group. And so I don't know how that happened exactly. I'm just grateful that it has.
And I would say not your final goal, but the biggest goal right now that you have, your greatest aspiration for in terms of the story of Stan. What is it?
I think the legacy of secure functioning, of what we're trying to do with PACT, which is a psychobiological approach to couple therapy that I developed. By the way, when I say I developed, it's it is a polytheoretical approach, nonlinear approach that borrows from all the greats, all the systems that work. The only difference here is that it's all toward one goal, and that is secure functioning in this life or the next. Right?
Thank
Yeah, relationships that are built on full collaboration, cooperation, like a three-legged race, a two-person psychological system of we and us that works as a team of equals, always remaining fair, just, and mutually sensitive. That's the whole idea.
Dr. Tatkin, thank you so much for sharing your story with us on Free Your Voice.
Thank you. Thank you, Dustin, very much. It's fun.